Welcome to my video. So today we'll be looking at definition of some words in algebra. And the first set of words will be variable, expression, equation, and a formula. So as students, we should be able to recognize these and also use them correctly in our mathematical language. So we start with variable. A variable is a letter to represent a value. So you can choose any letter, A, B, D, F, X, Y, to represent a value. So we can choose Y to represent, let's say, 2000. We can choose X to represent the number 10. Now, it says the value can change. The reason why we call them variables is that now, if we are choosing Y to be equal to 2000, at some point we can choose the same Y to represent the number 50. We can choose X to represent the number 100. So the numbers will change at some point. That is why we call them variables. They vary. Now, one example of using these variables is, for example, let's say you went to the market to buy a box of pencils, and in each box, the number of pencils is 30,000. So instead of writing 30,000 on your sheet of paper or on your list or on your receipt, you can use a variable to represent that number. So say, for example, you choose P. So you can say, let P be the number of pencils in each box. So P is equal to 30,000. So if you bought 100 boxes, then the total number of pencils you are going to have will be 100 times P. Now, in mathematics, when we are multiplying a number by a variable, we make the multiplication sign invisible. So this multiplication sign, we make it invisible by writing this as 100p. So this 100p is the same as 100 times p. And another example is 5y. 5y is the same as 5 times y. Now you can't write this as y5 because you know that multiplication is commutative. Yes, multiplication is commutative, but when you are multiplying a number by a variable, you put the number first. So this one is not acceptable in math. You always bring the number first before the variable. The next one we look at is expression. So expression consists of numbers, variables, and operators grouped together to show the value of something. And these are examples of expression. So in this, when we pick the first one, in the first one, the operators are the plus and then the multiplication, because the 2x is the same as 2 times x, and the multiplication sign is an operator. And this 2x plus 5 is representing the value of something which we don't know, and we can only know that value when the value of x is given. So say for example, they tell us that the value of x is equal to 10, then we can substitute 10 into the expression. So where we see x, we put 10 there. The substitution means that we are replacing the variable with a number. So in this case, the value of this expression will be 2 times 10, because we have 2x, which is 2 times x. So it's going to be 2 times 10 plus 5. And this will give us 20 plus 5 equals 25. So the value of this expression when x is equal to 10 is equal to 25. Now, we can do the same for the two examples there. When we know the value of x and y, and also the value of m. And one thing we have to note is that in these examples, you can see that we do not have an equal sign in any of them. And a lot of students get confused. Sometimes they use expression for equation, they use equation for expression, but we have to note the difference. And the difference is that with an expression, we do not have an equal sign. So expression, any expression doesn't have an equal sign in it. Now we look at equation. So equation is two equal expressions. So in equation, we have the equal sign there. And in the two examples, when we look at the first one, we have two expressions. What we have on the left is an expression. What we have on the right, it's also an expression. It's a constant, but it is an expression. And this is separated by what? An equal sign. So an equation has an equal sign in it. And the value of the variable can be solved. So in the first one, we have the value to be y. We can solve for the value of y without substituting anything into the mathematical operation. And I will come back to that after we've looked at a formula. Now, with a formula, it is also two equal expressions, but with formula, you have to substitute values into the mathematical operation. So for example, when we pick the first one, if we want to find the value of x, we need the value of p. We need the value of q before we can find the value of x. Without that, we can't find the value of x. So the value of p must be substituted, and the value of q must also be substituted into the mathematical operation before x can be solved. And the same thing applies here. If we want to find the value of v, we need the value of u, a, and then t before v can be solved. But in the case of an equation, it is not so. We do not need any value to substitute into the mathematical operation. So with this one, we can solve for the value of y using the mathematical operation given. And because we are not doing solving equations, I'm not going to go through the steps. So when we are asked to find the value of y, the value of y will be y equals 11, because this is -6, and when it crosses the equal sign, it becomes positive 6. So we are going to have 5 plus 6, which is equal to 11. And the second one, we have to group like terms because we have m on both sides. So we bring 5 to this side where 8 is, and 5 is positive here. So when it crosses the equal sign, it becomes negative. So we are going to have 8m minus 5m, which gives us 3m equals, now the positive 3 crosses the equal sign to be negative. So we will have that to be 9 minus 3, which is 6. And then we divide both sides by 3 to get m equals 2. Now, when we do solving equations, you will understand this. So you can see that we've been able to solve for the value of y and m without substituting anything into the mathematical operation. But with the formula, we cannot solve for x if we don't substitute the value of what? P. If we don't substitute the value of Q, we cannot find the value of X. And in both operations, when we look at equation and a formula, both have what? Equal sign. And sometimes students think that both equation and formula are the same. They are not. Another example of a formula is area of a triangle. Now we know that the area of a triangle is base times height over 2. Now we cannot find the area of any triangle if we don't substitute the value of the base and the height into the mathematical operation. So this becomes a formula. We can also have the area of a rectangle or a square, which is length times the width. We cannot find the area if we don't substitute the value of L and then the length and the width into the mathematical operation. So this one is also a formula. Now on the screen, I have these questions. Pause the video and have a go. So for the first one, this is an equation because it has an equal sign, and also we can solve for the value of m without substituting anything into the mathematical operation. The second one is an expression because it doesn't have an equal sign. The third one is a formula because to find the value of A, we have to substitute the value of the L and the value of B into the mathematical operation. And the last one is an equation. Now, this equation is called a quadratic equation. And we can solve for this, we can solve for the value of y without substituting anything into the mathematical operation. So it makes this operation an equation. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in my next video. Thank you.